Hello and welcome back to the SecurityMetrics podcast. My name is Jen Stone. I'm a principal security analyst here at SecurityMetrics. Today I have a guest who's going to talk to us about keeping kids safe online. It's a very important topic. I know we usually talk about technical things or compliance things, but a lot of the listeners of this show are parents or caregivers, people who know parents or caregivers. So if you have a friend or a loved one who might find value in this recording, please share it with them. Teressa Gehrke is the CEO of Popsicle, which is Protecting Our Precious Curious Kids Online, a cybersecurity awareness company for kids and their caregivers. Popsicle incorporates fun, engaging content that educates kids of all ages. Live and animated videos bring to life cybersecurity awareness concepts. Award-winning kids' music and videos inform kids how to be smart and safe online. Caregivers will also enjoy the relatable content. A little bit about Teressa. She has a BA in Anthropology and Art History from the University of Denver, an MA in Anthropology and International Development from Colorado State University, studied computer network technology and network security at Arapahoe Community College. She is a cybersecurity professional with over 10 years developing high-quality technical documentation, well-traveled anthropologist with a focus on culture, inclusion, and diversity, and researched in Haiti. Project manager of boutique clientele in cybersecurity, IT, and telecommunications, and creator of the Dark Shiny Unicorn blog, illustrating the connection between cybersecurity and anthropology. She's an award-winning children's music artist, singer-songwriter, and enjoys stand-up paddleboarding, coaching lacrosse, and is a black belt in Taekwondo. Teressa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Did I miss anything on that about your company or about you?
No, that was really good.
Well, I want to know what led you to create Popsicle.
So this is a kind of an interesting story, and it's because of my son, actually. So he's 10, and he figured out how to hack his phone, and he saw me enter the PIN of his cell phone, and he knew like 3 out of the 4 numbers and kind of deduced what the last number was. And so he figured it out, and I was brushing my teeth one night, and I could hear him downstairs, laughing. And I'm like, what? I just tucked him in. So what is happening? So I go downstairs, and he's got his earbuds in, and he is watching YouTube videos. And I was like furious. So that was one. And then kind of the next thing after that was that he figured out how to bypass the security monitoring system from his school and was able to do searches and watch YouTube videos without us really seeing what he was doing in the monitoring app. So he was very clever. He was very sneaky. And that's how Popsicle came to me.
Nice. Well, and a lot of people don't realize that kids are smart. They'll get around these controls that are in place. And so the more informed you are as a caregiver, the more you can keep an eye on things that are going on with your kids and make sure that they're getting the right information online. They're not going to places that are going to be negative for them. Tell me about the mission of Popsicle.
Well, really, the mission is in the name Popsicle, protecting our precious, curious kids online. And that really is the goal of the company.
Okay. So how does it help kids? How does it help their parents, grandparents, caregiver? How does it help with the mission of the company?
So my goal is to inform kids and also show kids, and we talk about a wide variety of different cybersecurity topics. So I don't want to shy away from any particular topic. I want to be able to discuss kind of foundational cybersecurity topics like cyberbullying or passwords or MFA, but also talk about the difficult topics for like the older kids. So that might be cyber stalking or revenge porn or even human trafficking. They need to be able to know that those things exist and that there's a real cost and consequence to the people that you fraternize with online.
All right. Well, so I see that Popsicle has some very cute mascots, 3 penguins. Tell me about these penguins. Who are they? What are their names? How do they help?
Yeah, so they're not just part of like the logo. They actually have personalities, they have characteristics, and they are the storytellers of cybersecurity topics. So there's a male penguin named Spicy, and he's really not interested in cybersecurity. He doesn't want to do the right things. He's really pouty and he gets easily annoyed. And then there's Sweets, and she is like the very kind, very curious penguin, and she wants to do the right thing. She doesn't know all there is to know about cybersecurity. And so she's in a kind of constant state of learning. And then Savvy is the penguin who, like, she's the leader. She knows everything there is to know about cybersecurity. And she wants to teach Spicy and Sweets how to do things right online. So I kind of see that as a spectrum of all of us. So I think one could argue that a lot of people are a Spicy character,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're all trying to lean towards a Sweets character. And we might know how to build a password, but maybe we don't know all of the ins and outs of it, and how to really strengthen it by using like multi-factor authentication or something like that. So we're in a constant state of learning.
That's a great way to be, and it's having a mind that is open to learning the next thing, even if you know part of a thing. I think that is a benefit. No matter how much you know in cybersecurity, it's always changing. There's always more to know, and the threats are always evolving. So I love the characters that you've chosen for that. So what sets Popsicle apart from other cybersecurity awareness companies?
I think it has to do with my passion. So I love the idea that I can bring kind of all the best parts of myself to Popsicle. So it's not just about cybersecurity. I really want to focus on that human aspect of cybersecurity. As a children's music singer, songwriter, artist, I'm also creating really fun, engaging content that includes the music and the design. And I have a wonderful animator who helps me design all the content, and everything's really well branded. So thinking about culture and the human experience with that anthropology and cybersecurity and bringing kind of that whimsy to it really sets Popsicle apart.
Nice. So, you mentioned schoolwork earlier. What are some of maybe the top issues you've seen related to online schoolwork?
So what I can say is it comes from my experience as a single mom. So my son remote learned. So we would constantly have to tell him, turn your camera on. You're being distracted. There's like, you see like a screen of like 30 kids online, like they're all kind of doing their own thing. So they were easily distracted. And there's a lot of like wrangling going on. And then just teaching them like good etiquette online. So, maybe not looking at the screen, looking at the camera, or having the little camera slider open, right? The teacher would always have to say, turn on your camera. Another one would be the cyberbullying. There would be times when I would look at his chat and I'd be like, these are like 4th grade kids. So why are they being so mean online or just saying really nasty things? So the fact that they maybe don't understand that we can see everything that they're doing, there are ways to monitor that. The teacher can see it, parents can see it, the school district can see it, and them not understanding kind of those parameters of online behavior. And I think, at least for us, there was some amount of like dishonesty in completing your schoolwork. Like, did you finish that assignment? Yeah, mommy. I'm like, did you really though? Okay, I'll go check. Like, all right. So, having to check schoolwork as well.
Right. That the online bullying, that's part of a broader issue that it's disconcerting to see how people treat each other. But I think it has more to do with it doesn't feel real. It feels like you can say something and there's no consequences. It feels like you can be hurtful without consequences. We see this all the time between adults who have, you know, say negative comments or post negative things, thinking that there is not something real about what they're doing. And I like the idea that if we address that earlier, younger, and help people understand these are real people in these on the other end of this chat. It's not just some kind of a fictional something that you would never say some of these things in real life to.
Yeah, and last month I was a teacher, I was an instructor at Arapahoe Community College, and I did cyber camps, and I did the cybersecurity portion of a STEM camp. And in one of the cyber camps, I asked the kids, because kind of one of the topics we discussed was online, social media and cyberbullying. And I'm like, raise your hand if you've been cyberbullied. And most of them raised their hand. And I was like, but I thought to myself, what if I kind of flip the script? I'm like, who's honest enough to admit that they've cyberbullied? And nobody
didn't want to raise their hand.
They did. So it was kind of like an interesting experiment. Like, yeah, I've done it, but have I done it back? I think you could see on their faces that some probably have. And, there's kind of like this look of guilt or a look of shame. So teaching that, like, that's not okay. That way and the stories that people told me were like, oh gosh, I wouldn't have expected that kind of behavior from like maybe a friend, but sometimes your friend or your best friend really knows where you're vulnerable. I mean, that happened to me in high school. I remember having a friend who moved out of town, and then she came back without even telling me she was coming back and moving back to Colorado. And we caught up with each other in a bathroom, and I was like, oh, this person's back in town. And she's like, hey, do you still like that boy? And I was like, it was one of those days where we had been flirting, and I was like, yeah. She's like, oh yeah, he's a good kisser.
Oh.
And I was just like, I
for the
knew
soft
I
spot.
Could infer from that what she meant.
And a lot of
that she had
times
kissed him.
people will act out of their own insecurities and put you on your back foot, and it's something that people learn from a very young age. But as parents and caregivers, if we are more engaged in the communication that's happening, and we know what chats are happening, we know what messages are being sent back and forth, then we can address those earlier and help people understand the real implications of the words that they're flinging into the Ethernet. Tell me, back to schoolwork. You said that your son was getting around some of the safety protocols that parents, educators thought were in place. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So my son had actually shared a document with me so I could, edit it for him. And so I just happened to go back to my Google Drive, and because I was doing work and he had shared it with a work account. So I go into my Google Drive and I see the document that he shared with me, but layered on top of the thumbnail of his document he shared with me was a little smaller thumbnail of a video, which I knew he had been watching because I had caught him other times watching these really inappropriate videos. It wasn't anything sexual. He's like 10, but it's not something I would ever deem appropriate. And so I clicked on the thumbnail and could see that he was watching this kind of scary, video. And so he was busted. But then I could look at the app and not see that he had been searching for this video or watching the video. So then I did a little bit more investigation and saw that he could, in Google, you can do it in Google Form, you can do it in a Google document or a Google presentation. You can embed or insert videos and other things in search without the app actually seeing what's happening. So that clued me in. And then I went to technical support for our school district and said, are there other settings that we can enable so that he doesn't do X, Y, and Z? And they really had to think about that. So then it went up the kind of chain of command to other IT professionals and directors. And so then I started having that conversation with them, like, this is what my son is doing. And then I took my phone camera, and I recorded exactly how he's doing it. So I know that what I did as a parent will affect some kind of change of web filtering and searching for the next school year, because this had happened like in May. So he was very clever. I call him sneaky for a reason.
So, that sounds like a challenge for the school district IT. I mean, or for a parent who's trying to implement any of these controls at home. Really taking the time to educate yourself and find out what are the ways that kids can seek out and view things without your security controls being able to catch them. And that's not easy for anyone, much less a parent. But I know that there's tools out there where people can rely on to get to it. But regardless of what tools a school system or educator or a parent uses, or caregiver, it's a good exercise to go through and say, if I were trying to get past this, what would I do? Or searching online, what are other people doing to get around this? Because typically, I mean, kids might find a way around it by themselves, but typically somebody else has already posted, here's how you get around this. And then they just have to go do a search and then follow the instructions, and then there they're at. But fortunately, if they have the instructions for it, then so do you, and then you can find ways to address it. Once you know about it, if you don't know it's happening, then how do you address it?
And the thing is, when we started with remote learning, he was sitting in the office next to me, and he would still figure out how to do these searches and do things. I could look over his shoulder and look at his computer, and then I realized he's still doing the thing. We always call it the thing that I don't want him to do. And then I had him sitting next to me, and he would still do the thing. and so, it's very hard as a parent, and I don't want to be like a helicopter parent. I don't want to have to supervise all the time. That's not fun for me as a parent. I want to be able to trust my son. Unfortunately, because of some of his behavior, I don't. Not to the extent that I would like to, right? And him being in elementary school, there's not this kind of idea of cheating yet. But as you get into that tween middle school age and high school, then you have to think about the cheating aspect and plagiarism and stuff like that. And I've spoken to high school students, and they are cheating online, and they have figured out how to like message each other and share stuff. And so, the person who loses out the most is really the student. It might seem like a really good shortcut or workaround,
but then they lack
ultimately it really does not benefit you to do that. You should want to learn the material, even if it's boring. There's a reason for it.
Right. Yep, exactly. And then kind of a related thing is not even necessarily I don't trust my child, so I need to keep an eye on him, but also there are some evil people online, and children younger and younger every year are being fooled into activities that take them down a dark path. As a mother of daughters, let me talk about one that is common enough that caregivers online should know about. And it's where a child is fooled into putting inappropriate pictures of themselves, sending them to someone, or putting it online. And then that person reveals that they're a bad person, and they're going to share it with everybody, and they're going to hurt their families with it. They're going to take this information and just destroy their lives and their families' lives with it. And children are not prepared intellectually or emotionally to deal with the kind of pressure that they are subjected to from these types of activities. And the one thing that can really help them is, do they have a parent or adult in their lives that they can go and talk to, that there's open communication, who is actively already talking to them about these things, so that they can help figure out how to solve this problem, and it's not all left on the child. But this is hard. Like, this is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me as an adult to talk to you as an adult about it, and I've had kids I've talked to about it. Right? This is not an easy or comfortable topic. So what do you suggest? How do you recommend people get more comfortable getting involved with the school, with their kids, with their these online situations? How do we gain that comfort level?
That's a great question. I mean, when I say I want to talk about these really difficult topics like cyber stalking or revenge porn, I feel uncomfortable talking about it. It's not kind of in my wheelhouse,
Yeah.
that this is a thing that is actually happening, or some of this has not happened to me, but we have to have those really open, honest discussions. And for parents to either ignore it and think that it's not happening as a problem, or know of it but not know what to do is also a problem. So I think that's maybe where Popsicle can pick up the slack, right? Because I like I said earlier, I don't want to shy away from these really difficult topics.
Sure.
And the thing that I love most about the cybersecurity culture and our tribe is that if I don't know something, I can always ask someone who does know.
And
So I
people
do
are
some
so
volunteer work
generous
on the
with their
side
knowledge.
that deals with cyber stalking. And so I know that there's a group of people that I can go get those honest answers from, or, there's ways for me to research. I love to read and write, so I'm doing that anyway. But you have to take the time. Like, the consequence, right, is like that kind of like idea of ransomware. Like, if you don't pay me or you don't do this thing, I will then send this out. Like, one
Right.
of my favorite cybersecurity topics is cyber coercion. I don't know. I really get jazzed about it. But this idea that I'm going to do something bad against you, we have to say to ourselves as a parent, what is how does this outweigh me teaching them an honest topic about revenge porn or cyber stalking versus the consequence of something gets out that's really inappropriate?
Right.
I'd rather have that front end conversation about cyberbullying or identity theft now, even when they're little, because we know that the little ones are getting targeted because they have a whole long history that a bad actor can utilize. So I think I don't want to say bite the bullet, but you just have to say to yourself, this far outweighs the consequence of them being exposed in any form, in any form. So I'm just going to have the conversation. But where do you start that conversation? Well, hopefully you can start it by going to our website at some point, and then there will be content about that, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm so glad that you're putting that out there. And as a parent, you know that this is going to be an uncomfortable conversation, and your kid is not going to want to have it with you. So it's going to suck all the way around. But it's so important. It's the positive outcomes from just, like you said, I think bite the bullet's the way to do it. You just go in and recognize you're doing a hard thing. And your child is also doing a hard thing. I've heard of parents who get angry at the child for falling for these things and getting pressured into sending more and more inappropriate pictures, for example, once they get caught up in a negative situation. But if the child is afraid to talk to you because of your reactions, then you've already lost. And so hopefully education, like you said, by going to Popsicle and finding out more information, and then if you still don't feel like you're up to this conversation, there are other people in the community who can help prepare you for the conversation.
Parenting's really hard.
Right?
And I fostered my son for 2 years before I adopted him. So I had to deal with kind of the foster care system and the bureaucracy of that. And that was incredibly challenging. And I've gotten a lot of parenting skills through being in the foster care system, and we do lots of therapy. I won't go into that, but I've gotten a lot of extra skills through being a foster parent and an adoptive parent. And I think I'm a lot better geared to parenting than a lot of people who just maybe had one
Yeah, like,
and didn't
guess
like
what? Shut
get
up.
kind of some of this extra, you know, all these extra resources, right? So in some ways I feel like I'm better prepared than a lot of parents, but this is not an easy job. And they are being raised in an environment where there's just so much more content for them to access. I was thinking about my high school experience. I'm like, I don't remember there being an internet or very little. I don't think I had email until my freshman year in college at DU. Um, and so I,
So part of it
there's a
is
lot.
comparing our experience to their experience is going to give us inaccurate information. And so really recognizing the extent of information they have available to them and what we need to do. We didn't have that modeled for us because that was not our experience. And so Popsicle is a great organizer. I mean, just so grateful that you're doing this to help parents who don't have the knowledge because they didn't go through it themselves, in order to help our kids really stay safe online. So what I would love to hear next is, what can we expect from Popsicle in the future?
Oh, so much. So if you were to go to like my Instagram or my Twitter, I'm one of the things I'm really trying to do is brand well the different kinds of content that I'm creating. So I have content for littles, I have content for tweens, I have content for teens, and I have content for adults, and everything's color coded. So if you've got it like a 4 or 5 year old, you can go to like the lime colored posts and just, get like the really simple tip, right? Or the really simple video. So my whole thing is, my guiding North Star is to make the message short and simple and accurate. That's the thing that is guiding Popsicle. So I think of it as, because I'm a singer songwriter, I think of it as, can my content be consumed in less than 3 minutes? So I have videos on my Popsicle YouTube channel that are longer than that because this is a learning process. I'm only a few months into Popsicle. But as I'm kind of thinking about what I really want to share, like the message needs to be short and sweet and simple and accurate.
That's beautiful.
So the things that are kind of on the horizon are, so Monday, I'm going back to the recording studio. I'm working with a vocal coach to help me do voiceovers because my voice tends to like get really strained after like an hour of singing. It's done. And so I was going to do these learning videos, but creating the videos is very labor intensive. And my feeling is that the curriculums that I put out online will be easier to create because I already have the scripts written. They'll be easier to create, they'll be timely, and I can put them out a lot sooner. And all I need to do is go into the recording studio and record the voiceovers. So that's one thing. So I'm planning on there being a password curriculum that you can purchase online through our website for October's National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So that is my goal. So I'm very excited about that. I'm also, creating more music. I'm, just kind of converting the scripts that I had. There was one for passwords, multi-factor authentication, cyberbullying, netiquette, and catfishing.
Excellent topics.
I've just kind of got to convert those into curriculum.
Sure. If people are excited about what you're doing, are there other ways that we can support Popsicle?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a number of ways that people can support Popsicle. First of all, thank you for having me on here because you're helping me spread the word. So sharing is really important to helping kids online. So you can go to my website, which is popsicle.com. That's POPCYKOL.com. I have all the social media platforms. You can connect with Popsicle on there. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can now give to Popsicle. So I had done a poll on LinkedIn and wanted to get like a feeler of like, would you like some swag with the fundraiser? Or do you want to just give to the mission of Popsicle? So you can now do that on my website at the support page. And you can also, when you give, you're directly helping me create that media content. So that's booking time in the recording studio, creating the background music for the videos and the password curriculums, or curriculums in general, working with my designer, hiring her and building that content. So that's all really helpful. The other thing you can do is you can book me. So I have that available. So I'm doing a presentation in a few weeks for a football team, a youth football team around netiquette and online social media privacy. I'm doing another presentation later in August for a professional organization of adults on open source intelligence and corporate protection. And then you can also help Popsicle, let's see here, booking, the taste testers, which is kind of the interesting part of this, is that you can volunteer to be a taste tester. And essentially that is someone who is going to provide feedback on upcoming unreleased media content. So it's kind of like a focus group or a focus individual. So we can have one-on-one conversations. And that's where I get to use that anthropology too. Like, it's really important for me to not just put out content and think that you'll just love everything I'm going to put out. I really want to get your feedback and comments on, do you like this music? Do you like where we're going with this content? Do you feel like this particular curriculum addressed what multi-factor authentication is for you? So I want people to be able to help me from that standpoint.
Excellent. There's so many good ways to get engaged with what you're doing and support a really meaningful purpose. So I really appreciate you coming and talking to me, Teressa. This has been really interesting for me, and I hope that our listeners found it interesting as well.
Thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate your time and having me on.
All right. You take care. We'll talk to you again later.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us again here at the SecurityMetrics podcast. If you like what you heard, please share it with other people. Please like it, comment on it. Tell us what you want to hear in future podcasts. Tell us what you liked about the podcast we've done so far. We now have a season and a bit, so I'm sure there's some topics there that'll be of interest to you. Take care and see you again. Thanks for watching. To watch more episodes of SecurityMetrics podcast, click on the box on the left. If you prefer to listen to this podcast, it's available on all your favorite podcast platforms. See you on the slopes.